Hello! Welcome back to our last day of our Star Wars paper circuits. Next week we're going to go into the city as we build some cityscape paper circuits with us. But it wouldn't be a full Star Wars week if we didn't celebrate some of our very favorite Star Wars characters. So today we're going to make these little Star Wars character bobbleheads. They have one piece that lights up and you can decide what it will be. So I did Chewie. Chewie's one of my favorite characters, and in some of the episodes he gets to fire a blaster. So I'm sort of imagining this is his blaster that he gets to fire. You might choose Princess Leia or Yoda. We also have templates for if you choose the dark side and you want to do Darth Vader. I think we have Darth Vader, Darth Sith, and I'm trying to think, a Stormtrooper. So you can choose what you want to do for that. But the character piece will be the same for everybody, and then you can cut out fun little head pieces that are with your template printout to change who your bobblehead will be. So I'm going to go over what you guys need for the morning to have this fun activity with us, and then we will see our shoutouts. So the first thing you need is our LED paper circuit template. So this is our characters template. We'll be using it even next week as we make firefighters and policemen. I would suggest printing this on like a thicker cardstock like of paper so that your project has a little sturdiness to it. If you don't have the PDF to print out, you can always go get that. We are on patreon.com/rosieresearch, and our support starts at $1 a week or $4 a month, pretty much at this point is what it comes out to being. So, yes, there's our little Chewie. You'll need that printout, and then the other things you're going to need to make your circuit work, just a few things. Well, we need scissors to cut out our template. We need some copper tape, conductive tape, to create those highways for electrons to go run around on. We need LEDs, whichever kind or colors you want are going to be great. Maybe even a rainbow could be really cool for our characters. These are the parts of our highway that are fun for the electrons, and they slide down the slide and they say yippee and they light up. So we need some fun activities for our electrons to do to make our paper circuits interesting. We need something to power all those electrons to move through the circuit, and that's our battery. These are coin cell batteries. They're 3 volts, so if you have a different size, that's totally fine. Just want to make sure it's about 3 volts. The skinnier it is, the less chemicals it has, which means it won't last as long. But the thicker it is, the more chemicals it has, so the longer it will last for you. And then you need some non-conductive tape. I'm using some some masking tape today, so to help you guys see where I put my tape down. But you could be using Scotch tape, duct tape, electrical tape, any of those different types of tapes that are not metal. So as long as it's not metal, it will be non-conductive tape, and that is exactly what we need. So let's get to our shout outs, but first, before our first shout out, I forgot to give a shout out to Rohan yesterday, because Rohan is at camp and he doesn't come, in the mornings with us. I know he comes in the afternoons, and I am so sorry I forgot to give you a shout out yesterday. So Rohan's got a shout out. And now, who do we have with us?
We have, coming from San Francisco with a waving hand, it's Naomi!
Hello, Naomi! Naomi, your fighter jet yesterday was amazing. It was epic. Naomi got in her rebel outfit and she was like a rebel fighter with her X-Wing. It was so cool. Our whole family was around that picture being like, what? It was amazing. It was like the best picture ever.
After that we got Venetia.
Hello, Venetia! It's our last day with you. We're gonna miss you next week. But I hope you have fun at camp.
I know she's still going to do all the activities.
I know. She's going to come back.
Yeah, she's going to come back.
Maybe we'll be in Magical Creatures Week when she comes back.
Ooh, what are we doing for Magical Creatures? Unicorns?
I'm thinking unicorns,
Griffins?
some fairy stuff. Griffins would be cool.
Centaurs.
Centaurs.
Would be cool.
See, we've got a lot of options here.
Yeah. Dragons. Dragons breathe fire.
We're going to have a Magical Creatures Week
Magical
for sure.
Creatures for sure.
It might happen after the City Week. I know. It could be cool. All right.
We always love your ideas. If you
I know.
Have ideas
if you have plans.
It's just
it's
Naomi
just the two of you.
Well, there's
Awesome.
other people here. They're just not saying hi.
All right. Hello,
What?
other people who are here who are not saying hi. That's okay. Sometimes I'm shy too. No big deal. All right. We will get started then. And the first thing we're going to do is cut our little character out. So we're going to cut around the solid black line. So all around this outside. And then we are going to crease it on these 3 dotted lines. All right, and when you're cutting, you want to make sure that you cut as well as you can. Sometimes if I have to make a turn, one thing you can do is you can kind of do little cuts as you turn, or you can come in like this from a different angle or a different direction, and that can really give you some nice cutting style, just like that. All right, so you want to cut the best you can. The better you cut these pieces, the easier it is gonna be for you to put everything together, and your project will look really polished. And you'll notice as I'm cutting, I'm sort of cutting a whole bunch of different pieces out just to make it easier for myself. I think sometimes when we cut, we think we have to cut it all in one piece, but it can be a lot easier to cut it in a few different pieces. Just like it's easier to peel an orange in a whole bunch of different pieces instead of peeling it all in one. All right. All right, cut around our bobblehead. Now we do have those fun little cutout heads for some characters that you may love from Star Wars, like our Chewie head. But if you want to do somebody like Luke, you don't need those. You could just put Luke's face on this part. So that's something to think about. Maybe some of your characters aren't there that you wanted, but if they're not, if they're like human characters, I didn't really put them on there because I felt like human characters, you could totally just add on to that piece. All right, this is a tricky spot right here. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna skip that little tiny triangle. All right, now I'm gonna open up some space so I can have more space to get into there, and I can just do 2 snips like that to get my triangle out. And then I'm gonna finish cutting around here. It's nice, all of our paper circuits start with cutting around that solid black line. And you'll notice for my people who are working on their cutting skills, I move my paper a lot. A lot. I don't try to make myself move around the paper. I just move the paper around myself, which is a lot easier. All right, so there is my little person. We do have a switch on here, but I sort of found out we don't really need that switch. You might want to save it though, because I did use it on my Chewie, on my bobblehead, to make it sort of bobble and float a little bit, but it does sort of make him a little forward heavy when we do that. All right, so we have our awesome paper circuit. We do want to crease on these lines. So with this stuff, I like to sort of use my fingernails to sort of press crease it first. That way you can get a really good crease in there. You want it to go right along those gray dotted lines. And the reason why we crease it is so that when we fold it up later, we don't accidentally break our circuit by putting all the pressure we need to on it. Because you'll notice as we're creasing it, we're putting a whole bunch of, we're pushing on the circuit a whole lot. And sometimes that will break our circuit. So once we have it all creased up, we can get ready to wire it up. So I got my Curious George book. We'll tape it up here. It's going to be a little close to me today. And then we will get started on wiring this up. So if we look at our instructions have everything we need to do. They look like this. Mine are a little cut off at the moment. But it says that for part 2, we're going to lay down tape on the orange wire and on this yellow wire. So we're going to take our copper tape and we'll measure it out about like that. I always like to make sure I have more than enough. This orange one needs to go inside that green circle because that is where we're going to put our battery. And we need a wire on the bottom of the battery and on the top of the battery. So if I just barely go into this green circle, I won't make good connection to the bottom of my battery. So I want to make sure that I get good connection. So I'm going to go well into that circle. All right.
Venetia said that she's going to do Ray for her character.
Oh, Venetia, love that idea. That's a fantastic option. Ray is amazing. I feel like I don't know enough about the characters in the newer stuff right now. I've seen the movies, but for some reason my brain does not do good with pop culture. I forget it like pretty much instantly. All right, so when I go around these corners for our friends who are new, I can't cut that copper tape. I can't rip it and then do 2 layers of copper tape. And that's because our copper tape is the highways our electrons go on. So if I have 2 layers of highway, cars can come up here and then they're sort of stuck. Cars that I know of don't climb up, right? They can't just like go from down here to up here. They've got to like drive. They have to have a road that drives them up there. So that breaks our circuit. We have a whole bunch of electrons piled up down here. They can't get to the top and they're stuck. So you got to make sure it's all one big, long highway, even if that's like a whole bunch of bins that then sort of is that lamp or that ramp that comes up. So what you can do is you can either bend it up and then go down, or you can give yourself a little bit of extra copper tape. So if you peel it off a little bit, and then you can go to where you want to press it down, maybe there, and then you can just press everything else down accordingly. All right, and copper tape is great. You can rip it with your fingers. If you want, you can use scissors, no big deal. And I like to press my copper tape down with my thumb. So my next one that I'm going to do, the thing that I need to be really careful with is these 2 wires can't touch each other. If they do touch each other, they might connect. And what might happen is I have this really quick road from the bottom of the battery to the top of the battery, because this yellow guy goes over to the top. So I have a really quick road, and they don't have to go through the LED, which is going to be right here. They can just bypass it. And electrons are super duper lazy. They will bypass everything possible. So they won't do what they're supposed to do. Your LED won't light up. Your battery is going to get warm because it's what we call a short circuit, and they run as fast as they can from top to bottom. And you don't get it's not as exciting as having a little Chewy or a ray that lights up. So we do want to make sure those guys don't touch. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm just going to make sure I have a little bit of space. Let's say you get this all the way down, and you're like, oh man, it was so perfect, but they're touching. One thing you can do is, I'll show you, you can use your nail to sort of scrape it away. See how I can just really easily use my nail to move that? So you could just scrape it away to make sure that there's like a line there that's not touching. And here I have a really big turn. I've got to go all the way the other direction. So I can give myself a whole bunch of tape.
Rohan's here.
Oh, hi, Rohan! And press it down. Now I'm looking at this and I'm about to press it down. And you might notice, Dr. Erica, you pressed it down and it's touching that one. That would break my circuit. But just like I showed you, what I can do is I can take my fingernail and I can smush it over. See how it's not touching anymore? I can just smush it over. Just like that. And then I can press it down that direction and I have that gap. That gap is really, really important if I want my paper circuit to work. All right, so now I'm going to come here and I'm going to give myself a little extra again because I need to make this turn. And we'll just press these guys down like that. And then this guy is coming here. Now, if I don't line up perfectly with this yellow line, that's fine. But I do want to end up in the vicinity of it. Like I want to end up really close to it at the end because its distance here is matched up with my battery. All right, so you don't want to be like totally off of that line because you might not hit your battery. And that's really important to hit the top of the battery. That's what finishes our circuit. All right, so, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll just rip it at the bottom and you can use your thumb to really press those down like that. And we are putting the battery here, and you might be saying, Dr. Erica, we have been making sure that things don't touch so they don't go from straight back to the battery. I've got this guy who's supposed to go to the top of the battery, going straight to the bottom of the battery. Something's wrong here. And you would be right. Good job if you noticed that. We are actually going to put a piece of tape on top of that part of right here of this wire that goes down. We're going to put a piece of tape on top of it where that battery is going to sit to make sure that they don't touch. All right, and I want to use a non-conductive tape, so not copper tape, like a masking tape. And I'm going to put it down on top of this guy to make sure that I'm covering up anywhere it's going to touch inside that green circle. All right, so don't be skimpy here. Go long. See, I'm covering all the way from here to here. And when I put my battery on, you can even check it. All of this copper tape is underneath that masking tape where the battery is. That's really, really important, okay? So we really want to make sure that we put in this piece of copper tape to make sure that this guy only touches the top of the battery when I fold it up like that. All right, so we got that little piece of tape on. And again, make sure you're going outside of the green circle for that. So you've given it a lot of clearance on that. And then you're gonna decide what color of LED you want. So if I was Ray, well, maybe Ray does have a blaster. So maybe you want to use a cool blaster color, but she has a lightsaber. I think it's blue. Is her lightsaber blue? I think she has a blue lightsaber. So you could choose a blue LED if you wanted to. And before you put your LED and your battery in, you're gonna check to make sure they work. And if you've been with us a bunch, you'll know exactly how to check. But if you're new, your LED has 2 legs, and you might look at it and you're like, wow, they're kind of lopsided because one leg's a little bit longer than the other. And if we hooked it up both legs to our battery, that doesn't make a circuit because it doesn't go from top to bottom, which we really need. So that's the same thing if I put both on the bottom of the battery. I don't go from top to bottom. I'm on the bottom. So I could go top to bottom, where the battery is inside sort of the legs of that LED. And you're like, Dr. Erica, it's still not lighting up. And that is because LEDs are one-way streets. So they have to go down the slide to light up. They're really good rule followers. They never go up the slide. So right now I have a whole bunch of LEDs that are in a line looking at the bottom of the slide. So I need to turn my slide around, and I can do that by turning my LED around, and it should light up. Now, if it doesn't light up, you're gonna wanna try a different LED. All right, if 2 LEDs don't light up, it's probably your battery. Your battery might be dead. All right, so always check. There's only really 2 ways if you have a leg on each side. So even if you're not sure, you can be like, oh, it didn't work, but let me flip the battery. And then it works. If it doesn't work, check another LED, because maybe it's this LED that's not good. And if 2 LEDs don't work, get a different battery, because that's probably a sign that your battery is out. So once you know that you have an LED and a battery that work together, we are going to put it into our circuit. So I have the 2 lines here. I'm going to hook up 1 leg to each line, and I want to make sure that I'm careful that the short leg goes on this line. It's got the little word short leg there, and the long leg goes on this line that comes down. That helps me to make sure that my slide is in the right direction. So I'm going to tape it down just like that. I need to make sure that the legs are on top of copper tape and not on top of paper, or also not on top of like the same piece of copper tape, so that they're not where they're both on the same part of copper tape, because that would also make it so I don't have a complete circuit. I'm not going from top to bottom, I'm just sort of going out into nowhere. So you can pull those legs apart gently, and then you can line them up, and we'll just put a little piece of tape right there. I'm getting a little piece of tape out. I could actually use the rest of this one. And we'll just tape this down. Whoop. Just like there's one piece, and I'll get the other one too. Now if you're using multiple pieces of tape, just make sure you don't tape down underneath so that this guy is contacting tape instead of the copper tape. That would be bad. That is not what's happening here. We are good to go. I'm going to cut this a little bit skinnier so that it can fit better. The advantage of using clear tape for this part is you can always see where your LED legs are and make sure that they are touching. I like to really rub it, make sure I get really good contact. It's stuck down really, really good for me. And then it should be staying in. It should be really stable so it doesn't like move around, right? If you bopple on yours, you just invented a word, bopple. If you
That's a good word.
bopple on yours and it moves and starts coming out, it's not taped in good enough, all right? And it probably won't make a very good circuit. So look how sturdy mine is. That's something that you can test. I can even like almost lift up the paper with it without a problem. All right, so there is that guy. Now we're gonna put our battery in. We're gonna put it plus side up, right over that green circle, okay? The positive side is the side that has all the letters. There's even a little plus sign. And you gotta make sure you put it in the circle and not like here. You might be thinking, but Dr. Erica, that's pretty close. And I might say something like, well, this part might not line up on the template when you fold it over, or maybe if you put it too far down, you're now on top of this, or you've lost contact with that. There's a whole lot of things that can go wrong. So you do wanna make sure you're right on top. And when we tape it in, I use little skinny tiny pieces of tape. This, if we tape it in like this, it's super stable. That battery's not going anywhere. But you'll notice when I try to turn it on, nothing's happening. And that's because there's a whole layer of non-conductive stuff. There's a big gap for the electrons and they can't get through there to the top of the battery. And if they can't get to the top of the battery, they can't go in a circle and complete my circuit. So I need to make sure that I leave the top metal part open. All right, and that, to do that, you take a little skinny piece. I go over just the tiniest of edge of the battery. So just like that, just a tiny edge. And what I like to do is I actually fold it down underneath the edge like that, and then I just smush the tape wherever it goes. So I just sort of smush it around. It kind of creates a tape pocket. You don't need to cut anything special at all. That's in there pretty good, but you might also want to be like, I want it to be extra stable. So you could give it another little tiny piece of tape on the top maybe. So that could go like this. Again, I don't want to go here because that's going to cover too much of my top for my circuit to work, but I could go right here. And then once I have the tape on, I can press it against that top piece of the battery like that, and then I can just sort of really smush it in. It's kind of amazing. Tape is very pliable. You can really make it flex the way you want to. Now I have my battery taped in, but again, notice the top of the battery, all metal, all available, so that when I put this to here, I'll complete my circuit and my little LED will light up. All right, so that is how I complete my circuit. It's also my switch. All right, and you don't actually need a switch, so I like to keep this part level so that it could stand on your table. If it's down here, it's going to be leaning forward and it'll probably fall over. So I like to keep this part level. And then you can just take this piece, when it's nice and level, and tape it just like that. And then when you press on your battery is when your LED will go on. It's a built-in switch, which is always really nice because you can have this as a decoration in your house, and it'll be ready to go whenever you want to show your friends or your family, instead of you wanting to show your friends and family and it doesn't light up because your battery has been all the way used up. Because your battery will last on these LEDs for a couple of days, but if you want to show your grandma and you're not going to see her till next week, it's not going to work anymore without a switch that turns it off. So we have an automatic off switch, which is really, really handy. And then you just have to decorate. Now you might be like, ooh, Dr. Erica, how do I decorate this guy when it's standing up? Well, let me show you. You can just take off this little back piece like that, and then you can lay it flat on your table and you can decorate it flat, just like that, nicely on your table. And then when you're ready, you go find that spot again where you want it to be, and it'll stand back up, just like our little Chewy right here. All right, if you have the big heads, they might want to tip forward, but some of the smaller heads that we have that are add-ons will probably be a little bit more stable. They're not as heavy, so it doesn't tip them as much. But you could also, use this as Luke Skywalker. You could, any of the characters. And we do have the dark side printout too. And they come as just little dotted lines that you can cut around. And you could decorate this face. This is what I did for Chewy. I decorated the body probably up to here. And then you decorate this face and you put it on top, and it looks seamless. And it looks really cool. So if you're doing Rey or Leia or Chewy, maybe you are like, I want to do C-3PO. I don't even think you would need a head for C-3PO, because C-3PO, you need some gold though. You would need a lot of gold markers for C-3PO. But I bet somebody out there has some gold, and it would look really cool. So that is our project for today, our last little day. We're making these fun little character guys that will light up and have some fun. If you wanted to, you could even add your own extras. So if you wanted this to be a lightsaber, maybe you have a little straw that you could glue on to make it a lightsaber, which would be amazing. All right, we are going to go over into our Zoom room and help all of our friends who might be having trouble with their paper circuits. If you don't know about our Zoom room, that is on our Patreon page at patreon.com/rosieresearch. And it's just our way to help make sure our community has awesome science opportunities. You can come once a week. You can come 5 days a week. We're here live every weekday from 9 to 10 in the morning during the summer, and we will always be doing paper circuits. So you don't need to gather a whole lot of supplies, just yourself, some printouts, and your creativity. We hope to see you soon. And for our friends in our Zoom room, we'll see you in just a minute. Have a good weekend, guys.